Since you've been doing this job, just with social media alone, how it's changed everything.
Sure, that brings a totally different component in. Really, if you go back to 24-hour news, long before I started doing this, that changed a lot of things because, you know, back in the day, and I've said this many times, when I was a kid, you waited till 6 o'clock for the news to come.
Yes.
And
you got the weather. You got the weather once.
Right, but it also gave the media an opportunity to get it right. At 6 o'clock now with 24-hour news, it's about getting it on the website as quickly as they can, and sometimes we've seen the information is not always that good.
Well, you know, that's one of the things, one of the advantages that radio always had, and that is that we could be immediate. You could pick up a telephone and show up at a scene of a fire and make a phone call in and be live on the air, whereas TV, it was very difficult to set up a live shot. It was much harder to do that. It was the advantage that radio had. Now, that is everybody. For God's sakes, they're live streaming this right now over their telephones.
That's why you have two cameras in your face.
Well, you know, I noticed it when you had the Herkimer incident. You know, I was listening to you, and that was something, one, you had, you know, particular knowledge about, you know, the valley and stuff, which helps you, sir.
Yeah.
But you also were able to do it very quickly. So your information was, I would say, probably the most accurate of all the media that was there.
Well, and I was seeing it as it was as it was happening, but that also posed some complications. We had to make very careful decisions not to give out too much information because we didn't know if this guy was possibly listening to the radio.
And that's one of the things, you know, when I teach the PIO to different people is the media, you have to have a relationship, because many times if you have these dynamic sort of situations, these barricaded people, or, you know, you could have something big happen, this is a school shooting or something like that, that's major, that's live TV. The police can't have the media either from a helicopter or on the ground videotaping what they do, because it's very likely that the suspect's got a television and they're watching police activity and they know where they are, and it can be dangerous for the officers on the ground.
You know what we did not have for Herkimer, and you talk about technology, how technology has changed. What we did not have was Periscope. So Periscope is this new software, and by the way, Facebook is offering it now too, where you can, right from your iPhone, you can live stream out and show video as well. And I'm sure I probably would have been tempted to show some of that action, but the technology wasn't there. So even over a couple of years, what can be done now is it's almost a little scary, because you have to place new rules and restrictions on yourself.
Sure, and, I'm very familiar with Periscope myself, but where I see the future sort of being is with the advent of drone technology, and it's so cheap. And once you get your license, I can see media outlets, I see civilian people, amateur media as we like to call them, putting these drones up. And right now there's no ability to live stream from the camera. It's just a matter of time before you start seeing through a Bluetooth connectivity, right live from the air.
Well, there is a way to live stream right now. Yeah. And that is using Periscope.
Right.
What are you saying with the drone?
So from the drone, though, you could some of these drones. I'm understanding.
Well, I'm saying you could attach a phone.
Right, that's what they're doing.
To the drone and set it for live broadcast and send it up, and you're really, you don't have the ability to kind of cut in or to cut away.
Sure.
But you could set up a live feed and actually do it live.
Right.
And Facebook Live, by the way.
Facebook Live as well.
Which we're on right now.
Which is what Manaski's doing.
Which is the new feature that Facebook is now. I'm assuming it's their answer to Periscope.
Right.
But just over the years, watching this technology advance, it's incredible.
The one thing I heard you during the break talking about, the one thing I'd like to stress to people is social media has changed in the respect that, you know, if we have an incident occur, whether it be a homicide or a suicide or a bad car accident, where someone is dead or has got seriously injured, and the name, like you said, gets out there very quickly. People have to understand there's families attached to these victims. And I know it's easy, you know, as an outsider, you don't know the person, you don't have any connection. You know, hey, I heard it was this one, I heard it was that one.
Right.
But you have to understand that that's the last thing a family should learn, is that their loved one was, you know, somehow dead on Facebook and on Twitter.
There's another example of that, and that is the case that happened with the guy from down in the valley that was just recently sentenced. And the story came out about how he had tricked his daughter into thinking that he was a 16-year-old boy and there were naked photos going back and forth. I mean, just despicable. But everybody in the media really, really honored what I assume the feds, because that was a federal case, what I assume they really requested, and that was, please don't include his name because you want to try to protect the family, the innocent victims in this situation.
Including the daughter.
Including the daughter. And it was really good to see that everybody honored that. Now, I don't go on topics, so I don't know. The name might have been on topics. And there's not anyone there to say, we're going to do the right thing here, right?
There isn't, and I, at least locally, I've had a lot of situations since I've been doing this with the media where they have a bit of information that is accurate or sometimes inaccurate, and they're asking for confirmation. Obviously, you're going through your protocols, but it's just something I can't confirm.
Yeah.
And I'll usually explain to them, listen, here's the thing, and I've done this many times with Christine. I know what you're talking about. Your information's good. However, here's why I'm asking you. Please don't do this. There's a reason for it. And I could say, without exception, I've always gotten cooperation in that area. But that's not necessarily the case nationwide. And unfortunately, you're talking about money because it's viewership. And on a big national event, if all of a sudden ABC News starts reporting the name of a suspect in a shooting case, everybody's turning to ABC News and turning off CNN and turning off Fox News and NBC. So they're looking to say, hey, listen, if they're running it, we're going to run it too. Not necessarily accurate information. We saw that happen with the Navy Yard shooting. They ran the wrong suspect. One ran it, and then 3 or 4 ran it. A couple didn't. And what happened afterwards, they said, well, they ran it, we had no choice but to run it. Well, you didn't do your due diligence. It was bad information. You do have a choice, right? But I certainly can understand where they're coming from. But
I mean, we feel that, but I think we do a better job of making good decisions. The larger your city, the more pressure, I think, and the bigger the market. And you're right, they run with things. Look what happened with the bomber, the bomber at the Atlanta Olympics.
The Centennial Park bombing, right?
That's a perfect example of one.
That one, not only did they run with who they thought they had, but then they began basically putting the guy on trial. Come to find out, he wasn't the guy. And
he was trying to help.
He sued and won.
And then
he ultimately died after that. But he did get to do part of his settlement. It's the most amazing story. Part of his settlement, on top of money, was he got to do an introduction of some sort on Saturday Night Live. And NBC had to let him do that.
He got the host or something.
I think
he was
he did,
a guest host or something.
He was like a guest host, did an introduction of some sort. That's what he wanted from NBC, and that's what they had to give him. Pretty crazy. So what do you do from here? So you're retiring from the Utica Police Force, but you're certainly not packing everything in.
Well, I think at least initially for me right now, I'm gonna continue to teach. As I said, I'm gonna be teaching all this week at our police academy, and take a little bit of time off and try to relax a little bit, and then from there we'll see what happens.
One of the greatest things you taught us was when you showed us a dash cam video, and we watched and we totally saw. We knew exactly what was going on. But when we saw another angle of that dash cam video, it told a completely different story. Can you tell that?
Yeah, that was a Louisiana case from some years back, actually, right after dash cam sort of came into play. And the long and the short of it is it was a carjacking. There was 3 or 4 what we call the parade of police cars sort of chasing the suspect. It ends up in a gas station. And the first dash cam video I show you shows what appears to be this young kid leaving a car, some sort of struggle, and he starts to run away, and a couple officers shoot him 3 or 4 times in the back. And if you look at the video,
how could you shoot him in the back? How could that happen?
Absolutely. And when I first saw the video, I said the same thing.
Police officers absolutely in the wrong.
No doubt about it. And this is one of the things that I said, and I teach in my class. I use that video is. Should you have an incident like this occur, and the only video that existed was this, how do you combat that if it's not true? And in this particular instance, there's a police car right next to it from a different angle, 4 feet away, and you can see he's armed. He points the gun at the police, and then they shoot him. But you can't see it in the first video.
Over? Weren't there were innocent bystanders?
There was like a homeless guy over in the corner that was there that you can't see in the first video either. So
how do you handle that where we want these body cams and we want all these cameras, but what if the only one that was available was the one that made it look and it gets released to the public, and we in the media run it, and now public opinion is, how could they have shot this guy just in a defenseless man.
And the other thing is not just that. What if there's one, and maybe it's what if it's of poor quality? What if the dash cam or the body camera is shooting the ground because it got jostled and the officers struggled, they jumped out of the car? What if they jump out of the car in an armed robbery situation and forget to turn the camera on? And then they turn it on after the fact.
Right.
So that's my only thing is that people have to understand that, yes, it's a body camera and there's protocols in place, but things can happen. It can get knocked off, it can get broken. Just because it's maybe of poor quality or it doesn't exist doesn't mean that something crazy went on here.
Yeah.
It just means that it's human error. It sometimes happens.
That Atlanta case showed you how something can look 100%, it seems 100%, that this is how it went down and this is the person that's guilty. When you look at it from this angle and just from this, take this approach, yet when you find out that he has an alibi, it really wasn't him, it shows you how somebody could be found to be guilty when they're really not. And that could be a suspect, it could also be a police officer.
All of us.
Yeah.
All of us, I think, need to, we see video nowadays, and we don't trust the people, we trust what the video shows.
Right.
But we know that the video is not always accurate. I think all of us need to sometimes take a step back and not be so judgmental and look at a situation and listen to what people have to say. I think we do it in all walks of life.
I agree.
We just look at it and say, oh, it's this way and that's it.
We appreciate what you've done.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Hopefully you come back before you leave.
Sure.
WIBX Utica Rome, it is 8 o'clock. Hold on.